Hey everyone, today's lesson is a little bit different. It's going to be on divisibility tests. These are tricks and tips that help us divide big numbers and find factors of numbers. This lesson is going to be important because it's going to help us figure out which factors go into a number quickly and help us find common factors for when we are reducing fractions or finding common factors in fractions. So let's get started. During this lesson, though, you do not need to take notes during the video. At the end of the video, there will be a link to this page that has all of the definitions and examples in it that you could either print or write down in your notes if you want. So let's get started going over these. And the first one is a number divisible by 2? So these are the the divisibility rule to see if something is divisible by 2. This is probably one that you already know, but a number is divisible by 2 if the last digit is even, which means it ends in a 0, a 2, 4, 6, or 8. So if the last number in the ones place is a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, then we know that that number would be divisible by 2. An example, 168 is divisible by 2 since the last number is 8. So since 8 is the last number here, we know that this entire number can be divided by 2. The next one is this number divisible by 3? And the rule for 3 is a number is divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits is a multiple of 3. So the example is going to help explain this a little bit more. But if I have 168, we know that this number here is divisible by 3 since the sum of its digits is 15. So if I add 1 plus 6 plus 8, that equals 15. And 15 is divisible by 3, so we know this entire number then is divisible by 3. So you have to add up all the digits individually and figure out if it's a multiple of 3. And if it is, then that entire number then is divisible by 3. The next one is the rule for divisible by 4. And a number is divisible by 4 if the number formed by the last two digits is divisible by 4. So we have to look at the last two digits, which is the tens place and the ones place. And if that number is divisible by 4, then that entire number is divisible by 4. So here we have 316. We're going to look at just the last two numbers, which is 16. And since 16 is divisible by 4, we know that 316 then is divisible by 4. So just by looking at the last two numbers, we could decide that the entire number then is divisible by 4. The next one is if a number is divisible by 5. This is probably one that you're very familiar with. A number is divisible by 5 if the last digit is a 0 or a 5. So if we look at 195, we know that it is divisible by 5 since the last digit in the number is a 5, so we know that it is divisible by 5. For 290, the last digit is a 0, so we know that that one is also divisible by 5. The next one is if a number is divisible by 6. So the rule for this is a number is divisible by 6 if it meets the divisibility criteria for both 2 and 3. So it has to be divisible by both 2 and 3 for it also to be divisible by 6. So here's our example. We have 168 is divisible by 6 since it meets the criteria for both 2 and 3. So if I look at the last digit here, since it is an 8, we know that it is divisible by 2. And then if I add all of them together, 1 plus 6 plus 8 equals 15. And 15 is also divisible by 3. So since it is divisible by 3, we know that this whole number is also divisible by 3. So since it meets both those criteria, we know that it is also divisible by 6. Then for 7, there's not really a good one for 7. It's a little bit complicated, so we're not going to do a divisibility rule for 7. But we're going to move on to 8. So for 8 is very similar to 4. And a number is divisible by 8 if the number formed by the last 3 digits is divisible by 8. So for 4, it was the last 2 digits, but for 8, it's the last 3 digits. So for this one, I have 7,120. This one is divisible by 8, since 120 is divisible by 8. And 120 divided by 8 is 15. So since we can divide 120 by 8 and get a whole number, we know that this entire number, 7,120, can be divided by 8 as well. The next one is 9. And 9 is very similar to 3. A number is divisible by 9 if the sum of the digits is divisible by 9. So again, we have to add them up and see if that number is divisible by 9. So here I have 549 is divisible by 9 since the sum of its digits is 18. And 18 is divisible by 9. So again, I added up 5 plus 4 plus 9, which equals 18. And 18 divided by 9 is 2, which is a whole number. So I know that this number, 549, is also divisible by 9. And the last one is probably the easiest one. Is a number divisible by 10? The way that we know that is a number is divisible by 10 if the last digit is a 0. So as long as the ones place is a 0, we know that the entire number can be divided by 10. So here we have 1,470. It is divisible by 10 since the last digit is a 0 right here. So those are the rules, or the divisibility rules. Again, the notes will be posted online. If I can link them to this video, I'll try to do that as well. And now we're going to go over a few examples. So let's do some practice ones. So the first example I have is 150. We're going to go through the list and see which ones it is divisible by. And when we're doing these, there's going to be, some of them are going to have multiple things that it's divisible by, and we want to make sure we mark all of the ones that we can divide by. So when I'm looking at this, is this number divisible by 2? Again, I have to look at the last number. Is it even? 0? Yes, it is an even number. So is this number divisible by 2? Yes. Is this number divisible by 3? So I have to add up the numbers. 1 plus 5 plus 0 is 6. Is 6 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. Then I have 4 is 50. The last 2 digits divisible by 4. No, it is not. For 5, does it end in a 5 or a 0? Well, yes, it ends in a 0, so it is divisible by 5. For 6, does it meet the criteria for both 2 and 3? Well, I have a check mark for 2 and 3. So that means, yes, it is also divisible by 6. Is 150, the last 3 digits, divisible by 8? No, it is not. For 9, if I add up the numbers, is it divisible by 9? Is 6 divisible by 9? No. And then the last number, is it a 0? Yes, it is. So 10 also. So for 150, we have it is divisible by 2, 3, 5, 6, and 10. So if you were doing the homework assignment, you would check all of these boxes Let's move on to the next one, which is 225. So the first one is this number divisible by 2? Well, the last number is an odd number. It is 5, so it is not divisible by 2. If I add up all these numbers, I have 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 5 is 9. Is 9 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So I know that this whole number then is divisible by 3. Is 25 divisible by 4? No, it is not. For 5, is the last number a 5 or a 0? Well, it is a 5, so the whole number is divisible by 5. For 6, does this meet the criteria for both 2 and 3? Well, when I look up at the top, it only meets the criteria for 3, so it doesn't meet the criteria for 6 then, because it doesn't meet it for 2. For 220, or for 8, the last 3 digits, 225, is that divisible by 8? No, it is not. Is this number divisible by 9? When I added these all up, I got 9, and 9 is divisible by 9. So yes, this whole number is divisible by 9. And then for 10, does it end in a 0? No, it does not. So it is not divisible by 10. So 225, which numbers? It's only divisible by 3, 5, and 9. So those are the only 3 numbers that it is divisible by. So I would check those 3 boxes only. The next one is a bigger number. It is 7,168. Is this number divisible by 2? Since the last number is an even number, I know that it is divisible by 2. If I add up all of these numbers, 7 plus 1 plus 6 plus 8, that equals 22. And 22 is not divisible by 3. Then I look at 68. Is 68 divisible by 4? Yes, it is. So I'll put a check there. Then 5, does it end in a 5 or a 0? No, it does not. Does it meet the criteria for 2 and 3 for it to be divisible by 6? No, since it's not divisible by 3, it can't be divisible by 6. For the last one, is 168 divisible by 8? Yes, it is. 168, the last 3 digits, is divisible by 8, and that would equal 15. So since it equals a whole number, it is divisible by 8. For 9, when I add up all the numbers again, I got 22. And 22 is not divisible by 9, so the whole number is not divisible by 9. And it is not divisible by 10 because it does not have a 0 at the end. So for this one, the only ones I should be checking is 2, 4, and 8. The next number or example we have is 9,042. When I look at this number, is it divisible by 2? Since the last digit is an even number, I know that it is divisible by 2. If I add up all of these numbers together, I get 15. And is 15 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. Looking at the last 2 digits, 42, is 42 divisible by 4? No, it is not. Is this number divisible by 5? Is the last digit a 5 or a 0? No, it is not. Is it divisible by 6? Does it meet the criteria for both 2 and 3? I have a check for both of those, so yes, it does. Is 42, since there's a 0 here, it's still just 42, divisible by 8? No, it is not. When I add these numbers up, I got 15. Is 15 divisible by 9? No, it is not. And is the last number a 0? No, so it's not divisible by 10. So for this one, all I have is 2, 3, and 6 checked off. The next example is 35,120. When I look at the last digit, it's a 0, so is that divisible by 2? Yes, it is. When I add up these numbers, 3 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2, I get 11. So is 11 divisible by 3? No. If I look at the last two digits, 20, is 20 divisible by 4? Yes, 20 divided by 4 is 5. Is it divisible by 5? The last number is 0 or 5. Yes, it's a 0, so it is divisible by 5. Does it meet the criteria for 2 and 3? It only meets it for 2, so that means it does not meet the criteria for 6. For 8, the last three digits is 120. Is 120 divisible by 8? Yes, 120 divided by 8 is 15, so it is divisible by 8. Is it divisible by 9? When I added these all up, I got 11. Can I divide 11 by 9? No. And then for 10, does it end in a 0? Yes, it does, so I can put a check for 10. So for this one, I have 35,120 is divisible by 2, 4, 5, 8, and 10. We have 3 examples left that we're going to go over. The next one is 447. So the last number is even, so I know it's not divisible by 2. If I add up all of the numbers, 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 7 is 15. Is 15 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. For 4, is 47 divisible by 4? No. Is the last number a 5 or a 0? No. Does it meet the criteria for 2 and 3? No, just for 3. Is 447 divisible by 8? No. Is 15 divisible by 9? No. And is the last number a 0? No. So for this one, the only one that it is divisible by is 3. For the next one, I have 571. Is the last number even? No, it's not, so it's not divisible by 2. If I add up these numbers, 5 plus 7 plus 1, I get the number 13. Is 13 divisible by 3? No, it is not. Is 71 divisible by 4? No, it is not. Does it end in a 5 or a 0? No, it does not. Does it meet the criteria for 2 and 3? No, it does not. Is 571 divisible by 8? No, it is not. Is 13 divisible by 9? No, it is not. And does it end in a 0? No, it does not. So if this one doesn't meet any of the criteria, it means that this is a prime number, which means it can only be divisible by 1. So this is an example of a prime number. It doesn't meet any of these criteria, so it is a prime number. The last example is 80. So 80 ends in a 0, so that means it is divisible by 2. If I add 8 plus 0, I get 8. Is 8 divisible by 3? No, it is not. The last two digits, 80. Is 80 divisible by 4? Yes. For 5, does it end in a 5 or a 0? Well, it ends in a 0, so yes. Does it meet the criteria for both 2 and 3? No. Is 80 divisible by 8? Yes. 80 divided by 8 is 10. Is it divisible by 9? Can I take 8 and divide it by 9? No, I cannot. And then does it end in a 0? Yes, it does. So for 80, it is divisible by 2, 4, 5, 8, and 10. So again, you do not need to write these down in your notes, but there is a note sheet that's online that you can print if you have a printer at home, or you can copy it down into your notes. There is an assignment for you to complete. It's got a few more problems just like these on it that you need to decide which numbers it is divisible by. And remember that you need to check any and all of the numbers that it applies to, not just one of them. So if there's 3 things that it applies to it, then you need to check all 3 of them. If none of them apply, you need to click that it is a prime number. So good luck with your assignment, and I will see you guys soon.